Welcome to Lead Wisely by WonderTour. We are back in our game theory series in episode 136, and we are talking about the movie Moneyball. So, Brian, we start out with tough questions about leadership on this podcast. Talk to me about Billy Beane, this hero leader character in this movie. What is Billy Beane's leadership superpower and why?
Awesome. We love this conversation. I will assert that Billy Beane starts the movie with one leadership superpower, and in the course of the movie has to develop a very important second one. So at the beginning of the movie, as we talked about in our last episode, he's in sort of a dire situation. He doesn't have the money to compete head to head with the wealthiest teams in the league, and he's just lost all his best players. And so he's sort of forced into a fairly desperate situation as a GM. And as we talked about in the last episode, the thing that he does very skillfully, the leadership superpower that he deploys over and over again right up front, is the one that we call vision. He is able to zoom out from his local situation, his immediate problem, and recontextualize it, right? So in the scene with the scouts, he's challenging him, like, the problem is not that we have to replace the best leadoff hitter that we had. The problem is not that we have to replace 120 RBIs. The problem is not that we have to find find another first baseman. The problem is that we have less money than the other teams do. And so we have to be doing something differently. So this zooming out that far and reframing the conversation as this is an unfair game and we can't play the same recruiting strategy, the same strategy to fill our team with players, is what opens him to the idea of, like, oh, this crazy statistics kid who was whispering in somebody's ear in this other meeting that I had, I'm going to go talk to him. Like, what are you doing? Like, wow, that's a new way of looking at the world. Like, he's open to revolutionizing the way he does the job because he's committed to the big picture of, like, I need to win games. I want to win the World Series. But he's not actually committed to the mechanics. He's like, I'm totally open to blowing stuff up if it'll work better. And that's because he understands what game he's playing, which is like, I have a different challenge than the GM of the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
So he uses that very effectively, and he uses that skill over and over again when he's talking to his players, when he's talking to when he's talking to the owner, when he's talking to the scouts, when he's trying to explain, like, what the strategy is and how it's going to work. He's very good at recontextualizing, like, okay, even during the course of the season, when some things work and some things don't, he's like, oh, okay, I guess this isn't working. These players are maybe need to be traded. These other players are not, working out the way I thought. Oh, I actually want this other thing. We see him doing a really good job of this high level vision of where super clear, where do I want to go? How do all the pieces fit together? We talked a lot in the last episode about making the individual trades, the individual plays add up to something coherent and not just try to win each trade, but try to win the overall result of the trades. But that's only half the story, right?
Yeah, because he starts out with this great, you can tell he's a visionary, right? He's more concerned with the future and the ideas of a thing than he is with the mechanics of a thing, which is a telltale sign of a visionary. So what does he do, though, throughout the movie? Because at the beginning, that visionary trait helps him, but it also hurts him. If not combined with other leadership superpowers, put another way, you don't actually achieve the full outcome.
Well, yeah, and this is I think a lot of our experience. If you try to revolutionize something inside an organization, if you try to change the way that everybody's working, if you try to change the goals and measure them in new ways and put new people in roles that they aren't comfortable with, like, what always happens inevitably in that case, of course, is that everything goes perfectly the first time and it's very smooth and you succeed right out of the gate and win the World Series, right?
Of course.
No, this never happens. 0% of the time does a revolution work seamlessly from day zero, right? And so what we see in the first half of this movie is that he puts this land of misfit toys together, and the players themselves are kind of a pirate's crew of people who are sort of loosey-goosey and sort of in different levels of maturity. And the scouts don't understand it to the point where he has to fire the head scout. The coach, the manager, super doesn't understand it, like fights him tooth and nail the entire way. And what happens is they lose a whole bunch of games, right? Like, they are the worst team in baseball for like the first 30 games of the season or something like that. Super not working. Everybody looks like idiots. He looks like an idiot. They want to fire him. The sabermetrics revolution is clearly not taking over the world, right? And again, he manages to zoom out and sort of, realize, like, okay, well, the thing that's happened, what's going on here is that we put the pieces in place, but they're not actually interacting with each other the way that they need to. Like, it's not working. So he does two things. One of the things that he does is he doubles down. He's like, all right, manager's not playing the players that I want him to play. I'm going to trade away all of the people that he likes better, all of these slightly better first basemen that don't get on bases often. I'm going to do all of that so that we have to do it my way. Right. So he doubles down on his strategy. He doubles down on this is either going to work or I'm going to be a 44-year-old guy with a high school diploma who just got fired. Right. But then the second thing that he does is much more impactful and much more work. And this we get in a series of kind of training montages and stuff, is that he gets down to ground level himself. And he starts to develop the superpower of compassion. And we talk about this one a lot on WonderTour too, and it seems a little touchy-feely and a little bit Disney for baseball or for business leaders. But the challenge that he has at the beginning, he has a little monologue to Pete about, well, I don't travel with the players. I don't hang out with the players. I don't form relationships with them because I might have to fire them someday. Like, I stay, I don't even go to the game. I don't even watch the games, right? Like, he's super putting walls up between himself and his team, and it's not working. Right. And so the second thing that he does was he starts to develop his skills of compassion is like he starts actually talking to the players. He starts getting them on board with this is what we're trying to do. Like, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is the way we have to play the game. This is what success is going to look like for us. This is how you fit in and why I picked you random misfit toy off of the street to be my relief pitcher. Like all of this stuff. And I love that. I love that part of this movie where it's like, these are humans. They are not objects. They are subjects. They are people. And they don't get on base because they go stand at the they go stand at the plate and magically 32% of the time they go stand at first base. Like it doesn't just happen by them standing there. They have to do things, and they're going to be much better at doing the things if they understand what they're trying to do and why and how it fits into the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when we come back, let's talk more about how we balance the numbers and the people, because that's really the story of Billy Beane. He can see how the numbers are going to work, but now we have to figure out how to actually implement that transformative change in the minds of the people that we work with.
Yes, love it. Hi, I'm Brian Nutwell.
And I'm Drew Paroz.
And we are on a journey to lead wisely, to become better leaders by touring fantastic worlds and inspiring lore by going on a WonderTour.
Like leadership concepts to story context, because it sticks to our brains better. You can find out more at WonderTourPodcast.com.
So yeah, tell me more about this. Balance the numbers and the people.
It's the hardest thing to do, right? Because if you're a numbers-minded person, then the first thing that comes to your mind is, how do I numberize the people? Or how do I numerize the people?
Right.
But that's not really how it works. And I think one of the coolest parts of this movie is the kind of mutual mentorship that happens between Billy and Pete, where Billy surely teaches Pete a lot about the game of baseball and managing it and players and
business baseball,
exactly, yes. All of that. But Pete really teaches Billy about math and about people, about both of them, because Pete's like, well, we can't just do this thing. Like, we also have to consider what the feedback of the people is going to be if we do this thing. Even if the numbers suggest that we should do it, we don't always just do what the numbers suggest. Mm-hmm. And even at first, Billy's like, no, I'm 100% dedicated to this. We're going to do it. He tells Pete, you just got to walk in. It's a business transaction. Don't waste any time and just tell people that they're cut, that they're traded, whatever. And that's what he does. In fact, the situation with Jeremy Giambi, it's quite comical, right? Where he not only lets Jeremy know in a matter-of-fact way, but he also does it in front of Art, the manager, as an affront to Art, to be like, screw you, guy. You won't listen to me and play into my plan. This is what you're going to get.
I will trade your players in your office in front of you, and you will watch it happen until you get on board. Yeah. Brutal.
And obviously this is not the highest EQ situation or anything, right? That he does this to Art. Like, there was many ways he could have potentially addressed Art other than this. Now, sometimes you do end up with an Art, and the only way is to, and this is really a last resort, but I have seen it before. Like, the only way to get past that person is metrics and going above them. That's it, because they are not going to change their mind. They will not do things in a different way. We've tried umpteen times, and they won't do it. So in the Art situation, I get it. Maybe Billy makes a judgment. That's what he's got to do. But ideally, Brian, he'd become more like the Billy later in the movie, where he is starting to learn the lesson and have the superpower of compassion.
This is such a real arc because we all do this, right? Like if you're in a position where you're a leader and you have potential authority over people's careers and their promotions and their raises and all those things, like then you you want to be liked, you want to spend time with the people that you work around and like have good relationships with them all, but you also want to have your shields up of like, oh, I might have to be mean, I might have to be cold and calculating and numeric, and the company might tell me that we got to lay off 20% of our staff, like it might not even be my idea, but you want to protect yourself. And so Billy starts out very much as the I don't deal with the players, like they're just pieces on the chessboard to me. But he gets to the point where he's like, but that doesn't get any of us where we want to go. Like I need them to buy into this. They're already, many of them are intrinsically biased towards him because they were players who were undervalued, and took a chance on them, right? He gave them opportunities when they didn't look like the right kind of player. So he had and that's also common, right? If you hired somebody, if you bring them in, if you put them in a good position, they'll often be open to you challenging them to do things in a different way. But like not talking to them and protecting yourself doesn't get you a relationship where they'll take a risk, doesn't get you a relationship where they'll learn something new. And so he does have to get there to the point where he is able to zoom out and give context, but then he has to get all the way down to ground level at least some of the time to make sure that he understands what's happening there and make sure they understand what's going on.
So let's talk about our mountaintop moment here then, because our mountaintop moment is kind of the turning point, or at least as it's shown in the story for Billy, where he isn't quite looking at players as transactions anymore. And it's after they acquire Rincon, the relief pitcher that they're really excited about. And at this point in baseball, you have a 25-man roster. If you're going to be over that roster limit, then by the next day, you have to send somebody down. Meaning you either cut them and sign them to a minor league contract or just cut them outright if they won't re-sign to a minor league contract. And so they have to choose somebody to cut in this situation.
Right. And so it's a direct fallout from the really fun mountaintop scene from our last episode where they have this telephone game of negotiating a trade for a great new relief pitcher. Unlike his monologue at the beginning of the game where he's like, well, I don't form relationships and I just go cut the people and I don't get engaged or whatever. Like he actually goes and sits down with the guy in the locker room, and he's pretty businesslike about it. Like he gets right to the point. He's like, hey, we got this thing going on, and they quickly understand what's happening. But what's good about it, as you can see, is like, he's not shielding himself. He's not avoiding the responsibility of what he's doing. He's not hiding from the fact that these are real humans involved, and he's about to tell a real human really terrible news that you're basically getting fired from your job. And he would have done that earlier in the movie, right? He would have protected himself from that human's actual emotions. And he doesn't in this scene. Like he's just there with him, and he knows that it sucks, and he's aware that he's the one doing it, but he's not protecting himself from that. He's willing to just sit with it and recognize that's part of the burden that comes with being a leader.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the examples of how we can see something go down is, like you said, he kind of goes in and he does have compassion. He sits down next to him. He does it in the locker room, and he doesn't just come out with it. He's kind of like, yeah, it's not going to be good news. And he understands the weight of that as a guy who himself at one point was cut, obviously. And I think that's one of the things, like you were kind of alluding to, that he's trying to protect himself from this entire time is, he has bad memories of not being good enough at the major league level. And they mentioned multiple times the kind of theme, like everybody's going to get cut at some point, right? Or like everybody's going to play their last game. And they use it in different ways. But in this way, this is Billy coming to terms with his own trauma. He's still showing that you can be a visionary, that you can be pragmatic and look at the numbers and take action. But you have to balance that. Even if you're going to make the decision in favor of the numbers, you have to actually spend time with the people, build trust, let them know that they're cared for, that they're loved regardless. And you only can imagine where that goes going forward. Obviously, it's a movie, and who knows what the actual historical art is. But like those sort of moments, I think, are when our character develops, when we recognize that what we've done in the past hasn't necessarily been the actual right way to do it. And to Billy's credit, he's humble. He's always willing to learn. He's always willing to think that somebody else could have a better idea than he has. And I think this is him learning from Pete here a little bit, that
Yeah.
maybe getting closer to the players isn't a bad thing. Even if you
Right.
have to let them go, leaning into the emotions is a part of being human, and every human craves it in a way.
If you're going to be in a leadership role, if you're going to aspire to leadership, you can't avoid that responsibility. You can't
Mm.
avoid the chance that you're going to have those moments where you've got to give somebody really bad news. You've got to make a really hard decision, right? And that because the whole team, the other 25 people are depending on you to make the right decision, right? Like it's better for the team to have the realist pitcher you just traded for. Like that was the whole point, was like trying to get the right people in the room to have the best chance of winning the game. But if you're going to do that, you're not off the hook for then you had to let somebody go. Those kinds of obligations are going to fall on you as a leader, and you can't shy away from them.
And it's tough because in each individual situation, it's not obvious what the thing is to do. But I think if that's the case, we're always looking for models or frameworks here on WonderTour. And the framework is actually kind of obvious. The framework is get the information, gather the information, right? What is the outcome that we're trying to drive?
Get the
What,
numbers.
yeah. And then what are the inputs that we have? Like, what do we have control over? How do we manage this situation? You need all that information in order to make a good decision. But then you also need to just consult the people. You need to just be there with the people. It's not going to be easy necessarily to make a decision exclusively on the numbers and then console the people. Or there's definitely times, Brian, I'm sure you've had to do the same, where you need to prioritize the people over the numbers. There's absolutely times where like the numbers say we should do one thing, but what I'm going to propose we do instead is take care of the people. And how to navigate that. What we talk about, I don't even know where it's from, but there's a
Uh-huh.
idea of leading at the edges. And a lot of the best leaders that we have followed and aspire to be like led at the edges, right? They lead between being visionary and seeing things at a high level, seeing over the hill, but they also take accountability for their decisions and they spend time with the actual people.
Right. And I think and the one caution I want to say is that's not the same as micromanaging, right? Leading at the edges is not getting into everybody's business every minute of the day and questioning their ability to do the job, right? The leading at the edges part is about ensuring alignment. It's making sure that everybody knows what they're trying to do and why, and knows how it fits into everything else so they can make decisions in the moment. Because you can't lead at all the edges all the time. Like by definition, you can't be in all those places, right? So the point of getting out to the edges is not to catch them screwing up. It's not to show them that you're better at something than they are. It's not to try to micromanage it to avoid mistakes. It's to ensure alignment.
And we see
And
good
that's,
examples of that, right?
yeah.
We do see Billy in like that montage section in the movie have some good examples where he's going and spending time with the older player and he's telling him, what's in it for him, what's in it for Billy. He's laying the cards on the table. And sometimes as a leader, that's what you do. You lay the cards on the table and let everybody know what's actually happening. And
Mhm.
you just try to gain alignment, like you said. And there's other times when what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to sit in there and explain the numbers, right? They're going to be a numbers oriented person or somebody whose job it is to deal with the numbers. And so you just got to explain the finances, or you've got to explain, like, hey, this is the metric that we're trying to hit. Like, do
Just show
you
them,
understand how this connects to the job that you're doing?
yeah, show them the film. Like, this is what happened when this thing happened, and what we really wanted was X, Y, and Z, and here was the opportunity. Like, show them the data. Yeah, so I think this is a great example movie of the constant moving back and forth between the zoomed out, the numbers, the abstract conception of the business, and the zoomed in, the people, the hands on relationships, the alignment of incentives, the alignment of purpose. It's really fun to watch, and and I think that's a good challenge for us, sort of practically, right, on a daily basis, is like, what percentage of your time are you spending like thinking about the big picture, looking at the numbers, looking at the strategy, thinking about how your organization could be working better than it is today? And then what percentage of your time are you like checking to see if it's actually doing those things on the ground and making sure everybody understands where you're going and why? Like, and if you're
Mm-hmm.
only doing one or the other, you may be missing the opportunity to do what we see Billy Beane do in this movie.
You've got to align the dreams top to bottom in the organization. I know that's going to seem like a completely out of left field thing to say here, but it's kind of what it is, right? Because your strategy and your vision that you're, I'm assuming, collaboratively coming up with, as we see Billy and Pete doing here
Uh-huh.
for the organization, that's important. That's your dream. But if that dream isn't aligned with the dreams of the individual contributors, the players, the coaches, at some point, it's not going to work. So you have to actually do the work to create the vision, but then you have to do the work to align the vision. And then, oh, by the way, there's another communication mechanism back up where sometimes the players and the coaches are going to have a vision. And the right thing to do, or even the smart thing to do, is to find a way to incorporate that back into the overall vision and dream that we have.
And it's inherently iterative, right? Like we talked about earlier. Like it's going to fail the first time. It's going to fail the first 30 times. It's going to be worse before it gets better, right? But nobody else is going to get to that better state except the people that are willing to question blowing things up, the people that are willing to question trying things in a different orientation. And that's the message you got to keep sharing. Is like the whole point of this is that we're not playing the same game everybody else was playing. We've got this new insight and we're going to leverage that, and we're going to be trying this new thing, and it's going to be great. Like that has to be the message.
It's awesome, Brian. Another great episode. I loved Moneyball.
Yeah, so it was fun to revisit this one. I hadn't seen this one in a while, so this was really cool. All right. Well, that's all for this episode. Thank you, as always, for joining us on our continuing journey to become better leaders, to lead wisely. We hope you'll join us next week. In the meantime, just remember, as always, character is destiny, and character can be cultivated.